Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Nextlander podcast. We talked about this a little bit on the Ramblecast, but Alex Navarro, you are at home base.
I am. I have finally set things up in the new home base. You can't see it on this podcast. There was a different podcast where maybe you could see a little of it, but not this one. Sorry, this is a no eye zone here.
No eyes, and the only I agree that it is the no eye. I don't know. Brad Shoemaker.
That wasn't the easiest setup, to be fair.
There's no I in Brad.
Yeah.
I?
This guy, yes.
Are we talking about Super Monkey Ball?
We're always talking
we are.
about Super Monkey Ball. When are we not talking about Super Monkey Ball?
I don't know.
Super Monkey Ball, Caravella, that's my name, Banana Master. Alex Navarro, you are in the basement.
I am.
It is nice and cool down there.
It is nice and
cool,
but the audio
down
is
there.
nice and warm.
Nice.
Is it not? Yes.
I feel like we talked about this on the Ramblecast, but you are, in case something weird happens, still working through some internet stuff.
Yeah.
And
Some kinks with a new Verizon Fios service that I am unfamiliar with and not exactly sure where the kinks in the armor are. So we'll just we'll see how this goes.
We'll see how it goes.
Blame the router.
That's right.
I think my next step is going to be trying to replace the router they gave me with one of the Nighthawks that I already have, which could break everything or it could break nothing. There's no way to know unless I try and break it.
But you can't without losing your cable TV service, though, right?
I'm not sure. That's the thing, is that I got the impression they were connected, but at this point, I'm just going to try it and see what happens.
Okay. Good luck, sir.
Thank you.
Brad, you don't rent a router, right? Or you didn't buy the official, you have your own? You use the Edge, right? The Edge router still?
Yes, I've got an Edge Router 4 still that I am looking for any excuse to get rid of as soon as possible.
Mine is okay for now. I haven't done it. I'm not doing any big pushes or anything fancy with it. It's underpowered, I think, for what, if I ever needed to do anything big, but...
It's underpowered, not to get into fucking IT hour here, but they dropped the Edge Router line very unceremoniously, like they don't support it anymore.
Yeah.
And that sucks.
Sucks. And I'll say this as somebody who is for me, I am in the Unify system with a lot of stuff. It never showed up in that system, even though it was part of Ubiquity. And that was always a bummer because everything else shows up in their diagnostics.
Mm-hmm.
Anywho.
In fact, actually, a fairly significant CVE was discovered in Edge OS just last week. I wonder if they have fixed it. I bet not.
You said they dropped the line, right? Yeah.
I mean, they said, like, I will continue to support it, which means, like, hotfixes for vulnerabilities. Really is all that means, but let me see. They've at least been good up to now about, I swore we weren't going to do this, about dealing with exploits and vulnerabilities, but have they? Nope, they have not fixed that new one yet. So
I'm just kidding.
Anyway.
I'm just kidding. I don't have an Edge router. I've got something else. I'm not going to mention it.
A lot of other routing options these days.
Well, because of the vulnerability that Brad just mentioned. Enough. Yeah. It's networking jokes. That's how do you guys feel about you guys both have Apple devices or Apple phones at least. How do you guys feel about those hot fixes when you wake up and you're like, hey, we pushed a freaking fix to your phone, man.
Those are awesome.
I wasn't gonna wait for you to plug this thing in or do the dance of it's charging, it's not charging. We just pushed an update to you.
Oh, I don't have the automatic install enabled, if that's what you mean.
Yes.
Of like, oh, this thing has rebooted since I put it down. Like I don't have that part, but
okay.
But those rapid security fixes are awesome because
a
real iOS update takes fucking forever.
They do take forever.
Like 10 plus minutes, 10, 15 minutes sometimes. And those security patches take like 20 seconds.
They feel fairly recent, like within the last year, are they?
Yeah, they just rolled it out a few months ago.
Anyway, that's the tech update. I hope everybody's up to date now on technology. I just got, speaking of cool technology, I hope it works because I just set it up today. Got a small room-size dehumidifier for the attic because it's so humid up there. There's something I find still magical and cool about a dehumidifier, like water being pulled from the air, and collected in like a little tray. I don't know. There's something like desalinization style, like, oh my gosh, we're making water from nothing. It's just all around us. We can solve it.
We've got a big one.
Yeah.
I've never looked at a diagram of what's in there, but is it just a fan and a membrane?
It's an air conditioner, basically. That doesn't get cool enough.
Is it just pulling air through a... Oh, wait, is there a temperature component? I assumed it was pulling air through some kind of membrane that water could not pass through.
My understanding is it's cold enough to condense, like have water condensation happen, but then not cold enough to, like, it blows out hot air. That's my understanding of them.
That would explain the hot air.
And also, I guess the hot air, because I looked into this, you can't like vent it out. The hot air is part of the process of drying the air too. It's not like you vent the air out like you might for a dryer, let's say.
Do you want to be moist or do you want to be hot?
I want to be hot. No, I would much rather have at this point that whatever they call that dry heat, but I am not saying what is happening now in, like, say, Arizona, where it is 110, and I'm sure nobody is running around anymore saying, but it's a dry heat. I'm sure they're saying, get inside and stay in a cooling center if you can.
Get your ass beat saying something like that.
Yeah, dry heat. But yeah, humidity sucks. We've got a bunch of games coming out here. Some surprises, some stuff I wasn't expecting to really get attached to as much as I did. My goal of get through them games before Baldur's Gate continues, because Baldur's Gate's rapidly approaching. I think we're about a week and a half out now from that game launching, which is exciting. And then everybody knows after that, it's just a cascade of kind of anticipated and big releases throughout September and October. But let's just jump right in here, because I'm very excited to say or to have played Viewfinder.
You guys found something.
Oh man. I don't know. I wouldn't say found it, but it's kind of awesome.
Is just stupendous.
Yeah, so
it is really excellent. I think I'm about halfway through
it. It's a game that maybe initially presents itself in the vein of a Witness-like, or kind of initially, if you saw trailers, which we did, it's like Subliminal meets.
I'd say it's even more of a Portal-like, because it is. So it's a first-person puzzle game with voiceover-based storytelling.
Yeah,
but it's more Portal-like in that the levels are very short and self-contained. It's more like rooms, a series of rooms, than one giant world.
Yep.
I should finish it before I say something, before I write checks that this game might not be able to cash, but like it's up there, man, with Portal and The Witness in terms of inventiveness. Like, it is one of the best one of this type of games I have played in a very long time.
I finished it this morning. It took me about 4.5 hours-ish, somewhere between 4 and 5 hours. I think I could back that statement.
Okay.
It being one of the better ones of these in a long time. It is. It keeps iterating on the premise in ways until the end.
That's exactly my question. Like, I had a moment, because I was like, it's broken up into like worlds or hubs.
Yeah.
I had a moment after I finished the second hub world area where I was like, okay, this thing has been just like wowing me at every turn, but surely they're going to run out. Like, their bag of tricks is going to be empty at some point, right? Like maybe this is going to get repetitive eventually, but like hearing that doesn't happen, or that they just keep wheeling out new spins on the concept.
So it's fairly short. There are 4 main hub worlds. I think 4 main hub worlds, and then kind of another place that comes into play later. But 4 main ones, and they have a kind of a new mechanic for each one. And they stack on top of each other, and they build very gracefully.
Yeah.
Let's just say the initial one, and the one they show in the trailers, is basically, and it's really mind-bending to see the first time. I showed my wife, and she was like, well, I don't think I can handle this. Is basically, you have you're in the world, it's a first-person game, you can pick up a still image and then hold it up and place it, basically, and that becomes a 3D zone, like a portal into, or it just exists now in that world in its full 3 dimensions with depth.
People may have seen GIFs or trailers of this going around. I feel like they've been promoting it for a while. Like the concept, if you just see it once, which takes about 5 seconds, like you immediately kind of get what they're going for.
Yeah, it's weird and cool, and but even by the end, I think I was still like that. It's just a cool effect.
Like a big, so like seeing the promotional stuff over the last year or two, like the concept seemed a little obvious to me. I was like, okay, sure, that seems neat. Like you'll take a picture of a bridge and slap it down to make a real bridge and then walk across the gap. But like, I think it's maybe only 10 or 15 minutes into the game before they surpass that level of execution and start doing more interesting stuff with it and just keep going and going from there. But also, even from a tech perspective, the way that works, like, you're creating level, you know, every time you put a photo down that's got depth to it, and it's like, oh, there's like, I don't know, a table and a bridge and some stairs here. Like, you're not only creating what is in that photo when you put it down so you can interact with it, you're also carving out whatever you put it down on.
That's right, yeah.
Like, it's destructive. So you're like destroying parts of the level by putting down new parts of level. And that is handled, it's some straight up like the big rig from Terminator 2. Like the time travel orb came out and like carved a big slice out of this 18-wheeler. You know what I mean? It's
yes,
like
yes, definitely.
Carving literal slices out of the world to put down new pieces of world. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's got that really clean carved edges of the existing world where you put down your mess. The game, I find, okay, so there's that puzzle mechanic, and like you said, it's kind of broken up into little worlds where you're essentially trying to get to a teleporter at the end of a level, now through whatever puzzle means necessary to kind of complete the self-contained little bit. It's got a narrative. It's not huge. It's not a like sprawling narrative, but it is interesting enough, and I found to be a very good propellant to be like, I wonder where this goes. Like, what happened? It's kind of a personal, smaller. It's hard to say. There's a big problem, but the narrative is fairly small and self-contained and interpersonal. It's got, and that's told through audio logs and stuff in the world, notes in the world, and some things like that.
I mean, you've seen how it plays out. I haven't seen the ending yet, but like I would say like the narrative is not enough on its own to keep a game going that otherwise was not interesting. But this game, mechanically and visually and everything, and in terms of invention, is so damn good that like having that extra, like the story adds something to that, I guess is what I'm saying. Like if this was just a completely sterile puzzle game where it was just, hey, solve these crazy puzzles we came up with, and there was no human element to this, it would still be an amazing game. But it is like, there's definitely more of a humanizing element to it because it's got this story in it.
Like I was in it for both, right? Like they work like, they work together to keep you moving, both because you get new mechanics so often and because you want to see. I'd say every 2 or 3. It's not everyone. Maybe every 2 or 3 levels, you get a pretty good audio log that kind of moves things along a bit too. They kind of drop you in. Without a lot of setup. I thought maybe I missed an opening cutscene, but they just kind of drop you in and you're like, all right, we're here, we're doing this. And it's not
it's
very
only like 15, 20 minutes in, you hit a moment. I won't say what it is, but the moment that they make clear the nature of the reality that you were working in. Yeah. Like on a technical, a visual, like artistic presentation level, it just like fucking blew my mind.
It's cool.
In terms of trying to think how to put it without just saying what happens, but like there's more than just putting a 2D photo down to make 3D level out of. They do other things with that idea of like you're in a 3D world, and all of a sudden that 3D world has now been put to some other use. Mm-hmm. I know this is very vague.
No, like, it's good to experience it yourself. Like
when you see it in action, it's like, oh my god, like they had an idea, but they knocked it out of the park in the way that they presented it. Because like I have not seen something like that in a game before. And
the world has like interesting rules that it plays by that both are integral to the mechanics of the puzzles and the puzzle solving. You know, and they're cool to try and bend and work around. And it sometimes feels like, and I like this about certain puzzle games, you can solve the puzzle in a couple of different ways. Like it doesn't have to be the exact way that maybe they planned out. You can get around it. Maybe it took you a little longer. Maybe you did a little something different. Like
that can lead to some fiddly situations where like, oh, I didn't line this up exactly right. Yes. There's like, I'm going to have to like try to jump over this gap to get up here. It's got a rewind mechanic. Like that's actually key.
And a nice and a well implemented one.
That's another thing where like this is a Unity game. They just really like went for it, bending Unity to their will to make it do cool stuff. Like you just hold down the R key, at least on PC, and it just rewinds as if it's a VCR, like it's straight up.
Yeah.
You get some like corruption in the image as it I think you literally hear a tape rewinding sound effect. But it also, on the little timeline, it milestones every significant thing you do. If you used a photo, if you activated a switch, whatever, you can just double tap the rewind and it'll just jump you back to the last time. Because, like the photos are a finite resource. There are batteries to power these teleporters, and those are finite. You need to sometimes you'll commit to using a thing and be like, oh, that wasn't the right thing. You literally just double tap, rewind, and you're back to right before you used it, which is really helpful. But also, like you said, you've got a lot of freedom in where to put photos down, where to take photos, stuff like that. Sometimes I've gotten at one level, I got into trouble there where, again, I don't want to talk too much about solutions. The place I had chosen to put a photo earlier had
obliterated something you needed.
Had left something in the level where I couldn't then walk to where I needed to do two puzzles later, so I had to kind of back way up and redo stuff. But that rewind is so fast that it's really not a big deal.
I often would be like, where the heck is, like you said, where is this battery? And then I'd be like, oh, I probably plastered over that thing 2 photos ago.
Yeah.
And just would rewind it. The rewind is very, I'm just going to call it, it's essential, but also feels very player friendly. It's the game does not feel punishing. It feels like it is there to kind of push you along. There's a hint system that I'm not exactly sure how it's triggered. I don't know if it's time spent in a level or backing out of the level. I'm not exactly sure. It came up once or twice for me, and then towards the very end of the game came up more. But you can push. It'll be like, hey, push start if you need a hint. And it doesn't seem like it punishes you for using the hint, or it's not like, oh, okay, you're gonna lose some achievements or progress. But that being said, there's only 2 puzzles I had a bit of a tough time on. One was pretty early on before I think I understood exactly what the game was asking of me, and then later on, I literally just had a problem implementing the solution, because there is. Like Brad, like you mentioned, sometimes there is some placement and depth issue where it's just like, this is fiddly. I gotta get this thing in the right Z plane here in the depth, and it wasn't working out well. Yeah. And then I was like, what is the solution to this? And it was like, oh, it's what I'm doing. I'm just not hitting it.
There's some perspective stuff that gets a little confusing. There's also some rules about how the photography works that aren't super clear until you really. I don't know if you remember every hub has one optional challenge.
Yeah.
The second one was the one. It took me a while. It took me 10 minutes to figure out that apparently the rules of taking pictures are that you're also taking pictures of whatever's on the other side of. Oh, yes.
Okay. This is the one where you get multiple rooms objects. You're spinning around. Is this the one where you're rotating the rooms and there are 3 pictures of similar, you get recursive rooms?
No, this one is simpler than that. But the thing is that's the point where I realized, if you take a picture of a solid wall,
you get what's behind it.
You're also actually taking a picture of all the stuff behind it, even though that doesn't make sense in terms of line of sight. So there's some weird abstract stuff like that to get your head around, but it's
neat.
Yeah, dude, it's really fascinating.
This is the most effusive I've heard you guys talk about a game like this in a long time.
I might just go finish it after this.
I said,
I need to see the rest of it.
It's like 4 or 5 hours long. Some worlds you do one thing in it and you're done with a level in the world. Some stagger them, so you do multiple iterations of it. I think it's a satisfying ending to the game as well.
That's good.
I think it's not narratively doing anything groundbreaking, but it's also not cloying, and that's what I was a little afraid of. Okay, is this going to be too saccharine, or is it going to go? It's a nice mature story that I think adds to the atmosphere of this puzzle. It doesn't necessarily feel like they slapped on a story to keep going, but it's not like one drives the other. They really work well together.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where it goes story-wise, but mainly I just need to see what else it's got up its sleeve.
I think my favorite part, and if they put out packs for this, I would be totally in, is the last level 5, and I'll be curious what you think of that, because it's set up a bit differently, but it's also, I think, a lot of fun.
Interesting.
So it's kind of reminds me of the last level on the Hitman 3, where you're like, oh, this is just different.
But
shit. it's different.
I have to finish it ASAP.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit like that kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a ways into the 3rd hub out of 5 already.
Okay.
Like you're making me realize as we talk about this that like I think part of the reason I'm so into this game is because of its brevity. Like,
yeah,
it would be very easy to, like I said, 5 hubs. I think it probably could have been very easy to make like somewhere between 2 and 4 times as many levels per hub, and then it would have gotten tedious. I think then if they had taken each one of these mechanics and tried to stretch it out over say 2-3 times as many puzzle rooms, you probably would be going like, okay, this is cool, I'm ready for the next thing. But like, it is really tight. It's extremely efficient at just getting you through stuff and like hitting you with some like pretty solid brain teasers, but not, not having any one of these things overstay their welcome.
And again, like I'll say, the most of it builds on the level you did before, right? You take that knowledge in, and now they put a twist on it for the next level, which is a lot of fun too, because you're like, oh, okay, I got you level 2, and then you get to level 3 and you're like, oh crap, like now you're doing this, and that's a lot of fun. And I think level 4 and then level 5 or world 5 get even more interesting.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's rad. It's mostly a lot of spatial reasoning.
Yeah.
With a little bit of logic-y kind of stuff, just barely.
We should show some of it on the Friday grab bag, because it's one of those things where even if you start from the beginning, it's hard to describe, but once you see it happen in the world, it's not one of those things where your stomach moves a bit, but it definitely has one of those, whoa, that's weird. When you put a picture down and then you just shift the camera a bit and you're like, that's just weird. The world doesn't work like that.
You very quickly start hitting moments of like, oh wait, they want me to do that? Like, like you start out very much like they give you a level, like a I think level is how they describe it. Essentially, like when you're about to put a photo down, you can hit a key to level it with the world.
They think they say realign or align.
Realign or whatever it is. It's basically, so it's like, okay, make the floor of this thing level with the floor of the actual level I'm in. But you very quickly start hitting points where it's like, oh, I'm not just going to be putting all these photos down flat with the world and making a bridge. It gets way more complicated than that. So
the fun thing that I'll say I started getting into, I immediately restarted the game to show my wife, and I realized, the gravity of your world affects the gravity of the photo you're putting down. So if you just look straight up and put a photo up, everything will just drop out of that thing onto you. So like, whereas in the beginning I was like, oh, I'll put this down, I'll walk in, I'll grab the thing, and I'll come out. On my second playthrough, I was just looking straight up, having the stuff just fall out onto me, which was a lot of fun. Yeah, gravity is a thing for sure. The only other thing I was going to mention is like the visual design is also incredible. Yeah, like it looks pretty The Witness-like. Like it's definitely got a bit initially of that, for sure. That same like flat, pastel-y sort of look, which is very striking, but there's one moment in particular, you know exactly what I'm talking about, where they really start playing with art style. Yes. In a very rapid fire way. That was one of the moments for this where I was like, oh man, they really had some ideas. They really went for it. The drawbridge part, right? Where you have to pull the ring for the drawbridge. Yeah. Yes. The whole like, oh, like all of these pictures I'm putting down to interact with are not just going to look like the base art style of the game. Yeah, it's cool. There's some amazingly cool stuff in there. Can't recommend it enough. Viewfinder. Yeah. It's on PS4 and PS5 and PC. It is $25. Don't know if this is planned to come to Xbox platforms at some point, but currently PC and PlayStation consoles. Highly recommended. This is I forget who made it. Sad Owl Studios. Put out by Thunderful. Thunderful put it out. Thunderful putting out good games. Mm-hmm. Like they were Thunderful combined with somebody fairly recently. They merged with Image and Form, the Steam World folks. Yes, that's the one. Yes. All right. We're going to take a quick break here. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about more games, including Oxenfree 2, a game that I think I need to go play. Oxenfree. We'll come back. We'll talk about that in just a minute. This week's show is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Brad Shoemaker. Hello. feel like we've talked about this before, but I feel like also you'll know when you want a VPN.
You don't need us to tell you.
No, you'll know if you're in the market for a VPN. And ExpressVPN is a VPN I've actually used for many, many years back, even when we were traveling around in the Giant Bomb days. I would use ExpressVPN when we were in hotels on public Wi-Fi because I'm going to tell you what, you may know this about me already, I don't trust anybody.
Yeah, that's, I find that to be a good policy generally.
Yeah, I don't trust anybody, and I especially don't trust, let's say, no offense to the Hyatt, their Wi-Fi or wherever we were connected.
You've seen these open Wi-Fi networks? They're just letting anybody on these things.
If you're going to use them, be safe. ExpressVPN claims they do not log your activity online. A lot of VPNs will sell your data, but ExpressVPN says here doesn't do this. ExpressVPN has pretty good speeds. Again, I've used it. ExpressVPN uses Lightway, a new VPN protocol they engineered to make user speeds faster than ever. Like I said, I've used ExpressVPN in the past, and you can use it as well. You can use expressvpn.com/Nextlander today and get an extra 3 months free on a 1-year package. That's expressvpn.com/Nextlander. Visit expressvpn.com/Nextlander to learn more. Thanks, ExpressVPN. All right, we are back. And another game that I booted up to be like, oh, let me check this out. I'll put some time into this before we get to the podcast, but then wound up being like, I don't want to stop playing this, was Oxenfree 2.
The second.
Oxenfree the second. This is Lost Signals, I should say. This is currently out on the Switch, PlayStation platforms, and on Android and iOS under the Netflix label there. But you can get it over without any kind of Netflix subscriptions, at least on the consoles and on PC.
Oh, Xbox?
It is not on
Xbox,
Xbox, but it is on at least the PlayStations and the PCs.
Weird.
Yeah. It's $20. I didn't look to see on mobile if you just get it if you log in with your Netflix stuff as part of that thing. I did not try that out. I liked what I played so far. I'm not especially far into it. Alex, have you touched this?
Yeah, I played some of it today and last night, and so did either of you play Oxenfree 1?
I played some of the first one.
Okay.
I feel like, did it have like a face button mapping for the dialogue choices?
Yes.
I remember some. Yeah. Okay. Yes. I remember there being a little UI thing that I was like, oh, that's kind of nifty, but I didn't really stick with it.
Did it first one have voice acting?
Yes, it did.
Oh, it did. Okay.
Yeah.
So I played enough of it like to remember climbing up the side of something and a bit of like it was pre-Stranger Things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but
I mean, it may have been right around the time Stranger Things was happening, but I feel like it's like close to it as opposed to one came and then the other definitively.
Okay, but yeah, I'm not super familiar with it. I played enough
almost exactly the same time.
As Stranger Things.
Oxenfree in January, Stranger Things in July.
It had a vibe, like in my mind, I'm putting those two together. I don't know if that's fair or not. But
I mean,
Alex,
it's spooky stuff happening to
Oxenfree.
Teenagers in that first game. So yes, that makes some sense.
You really enjoyed Oxenfree, right?
I did, yeah. And the main thing that I remember really liking about it was that the dialogue and the voice direction had a real fluid method to it, where it felt like, yes, there were dialogue choices, but the main thing I took away from it was like, these are like natural sounding characters. These are people that sound like they are actually talking to one another. Are they a little bit cartoony in places? Yes, but like the way that the dialogue flowed, I thought was really good. And it was also a pretty good spooky ghost story on top of that. It is an adventure game, but the adventure game mechanics are fairly light. It's more about just kind of, shuttling you through a story.
It's funny you mentioned the flow of dialogue because it was one of my notes from Oxenfree 2 and the amount that I played of it is the interaction dialogues between characters feel awesome. Like they really, Brad, in like modern games, and let's say modern since the first time I remember this is maybe GTA 4, where you interrupt the conversation and then somebody would come back and be like, anyway, what was I talking about? like if you were in a car, let's say in a GTA, and you get into an accident and be like, where was I? Right. I was talking about. So Oxenfree does it, but it does it so seamlessly. It doesn't feel stitched together like those things did, where I'll be talking to a character and they'll be telling me, let's just say, for example, about a submarine that got sunk, right? And then I'll go look at a billboard and my character will start talking underneath the other character kind of naturally, like you would just be like, they'll keep talking for a sentence and then I'll start talking and then they'll stop. We'll have this other dialogue, but then they'll come back and be like, what was I talking about with the submarine? Right. Yes. And like, you know, it seems like they recorded dialogue that matches the thing that they were talking about before instead of just generic, you know, hey, where was I? What was I talking about? It feels very natural, and I think that's adding a lot and making me want to explore that world more, and not interrupt or interrupt people because it doesn't matter. It's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, it's well designed, and I feel like I'm not all the way deep into the story here. I've mostly just kind of gone through I will say one thing about this sequel, the tutorial's very quick. I really appreciated that. Like, they get you into what is going on in this game very quickly. It's like 20 minutes at most. But it also doesn't feel like it's rushing you, though I have to imagine that it has been some years since Oxenfree 1 came around. I have to imagine that a lot of people are probably going to need a refresher on that story because it has been quite a while since that game came out. So, you know, like, this does seem to be picking up where the story of the first one left off, but I don't know how many people fully remember what happened in that game, because I know I don't remember everything that happened in that game. That was years ago.
Is that character Riley ringing any bells?
As in the character that you play?
Yeah, the main character you start with.
So she is not, as far as I recollect, in that game, so the first game was a bunch of teenagers on the island who got up to some supernatural nonsense and opened some portals, which they don't take very long getting into that aspect of the game in the sequel. But no, like, Riley wasn't the main character as far as I know, or wasn't in the main story as far as I know, but because they allude to some teenagers being there and some stuff happening with kids in this, I have to imagine that somewhere along the way, those previous protagonists are finding their way back into this game.
Do you remember how long? If I know it's been a long time, but do you remember it being a very long game, or is it something maybe I can chew through the original one?
In my memory, it's like an 8 to 10 hour thing, but
okay.
I really truly do not remember.
Because it was like, I think it's on sale as of the time of this recording, and it might not be anymore because it was pretty limited, I think maybe until July 20th, but it was like on sale on PS5 at least for like $2. The original. I think I owned it on PC, but I was like, $2. I might as well have them on the same platform here. I am playing on the PlayStation 5 version of it.
Yeah, I'm playing on the PC.
It seems cool. Like, I'm way into what they're trying to tell me with the story. And again, I think a lot of it has to do with, I mean, there's a lot of radio stuff in it, and that's cool.
I was going to say, I felt like that is maybe a particular point of, hey, check, this is a Vinny thing that he would dig.
The first one had a lot of radio stuff, too?
Yeah, the whole thing with the spirit world and kind of what you're doing in that game had a lot to do with tuning into weird radio signals and you solving puzzles that were kind of based on those radio signals. So yeah,
okay.
there was that stuff in the first game, too. I have a feeling they're starting to flesh that out a little bit more here, but yeah, that's kind of like, I have not got far enough into the story yet at this point to know exactly where they're going with it.
Spooky stuff, though.
Very spooky, and like, that's the thing, is that first game was very much a vibes game, and this one, the vibes are kind of right off the bat very, very good.
That is Oxenfree 2 Lost Signals. I feel like I need to go play Oxenfree. Or at least, maybe I just got to read like a Wikipedia page. It's $20 if you're buying it. Again, I'm not really sure about the whole Netflix thing. If you're playing it
I too am unsure about that whole Netflix thing.
We all are, really.
In a larger context. Another game that we all played, Brad, it sounds like you played some more of it.
So for some definition of some, yes, I played some more Exoprimal.
Exoprimal, that game where for some reason people in suits, mech suits, are battling dinosaurs forever in a forever war on some island, training for something.
It's a lot of dinosaurs. I mean, the reason is there's some killer AI that is manipulating events across realities and time.
The vibe I got, where you're
like
multi-dimensional.
There are multiple versions of characters. Multiverse is still very hot.
Some kind of war games are happening.
Yeah, I don't know what its ultimate goal is. I don't know if it's just like programming gone awry or if it became aware and it's trying to do something. But whatever its ultimate goal is, it needs a lot of combat data, and by combat I mean a lot of shooting dinosaurs data.
Yes, and sometimes other players' data.
Yeah, and then occasionally when the players get in the way of shooting the dinosaurs and moving a giant cube around, you shoot them too.
When the other team's cube meets your cube.
The game takes itself as seriously as it should, which is to say not very. Like the tone of it is completely ridiculous, which I enjoy. I was not prepared for how Overwatchy it was going to be.
Yes, I don't think I thought there was going to be a PvE at all. I thought it was just going to be PvE.
Yeah, and specifically escorting a payload, which both teams do. It feels like it should have. Do you have the prices in front of you? I know there's a $60 version, but
$60.
And it's on Game Pass.
Yeah, it's $60.
So there's like a free version of it on Game Pass. You can pay $60. The thing I was going to ask is there also a cheaper SKU, like a, let's say 30 or 40 without as much stuff?
When I price checked it on PSN, I only saw the $60 on Steam and PSN.
That's unfortunate.
I mean, there is a more expensive version.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't buy that.
What I was hoping was like maybe there was a cheaper version with fewer of the characters available from the get-go or something like that, because that's about what this feels like it should have.
So I think when we bopped in on the base $60 and the Game Pass version, there are 2 locked characters. So there's 4 classes? Was it 3 locked?
I believe it was 3 locked. It might be 1 per class. I'm not sure.
And then we had the better edition, which automatically unlock them via like a download you do, but on Game Pass I think you earn those unlocks through whatever battle points, and it's one of those games.
I mean, if you have Game Pass, that's the way to check this out, because I think it's not bad. It's just very thin from the jump. Like there's just there's stuff in it, but not enough of it is available right from the get-go, to the point that I'm like, okay, so it's a team-based game.
Yep.
The match flow is run to about 6 or 8 different points on this linear level as the AI tells you to go kill more dinosaurs.
Yep.
Kill the dinosaurs as fast as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Get to the end point before the other team, which is where you start escorting a giant cube to its final resting place, and then you have to defend it there for a counter up to 100,
adjacent to the other team doing the same thing. Which is, I guess, the more interesting or different dynamic that at least somebody who's not that familiar with these games but knows enough. Usually you're at one team is doing an escort and the other team is defending. This is both teams doing their escort at the same time to the same point.
And you can opt out of that PvP part where it would just be based on you killing dinosaurs fast enough to win. But I feel like that would be even more boring. I didn't realize that I don't think we ran into this on the stream, but now people are getting better at it. Once both teams are in that final escort the cube phase, you can go find the other team at any point.
Yeah, that happened a little bit in ours.
Okay, that's right. I guess as we got closer
into a dinosaur.
Yes. But like I had some asshole, like basically the second our team in one match got to the cube phase and started escorting it, and they were a damage class, so they were good. So they were causing us some severe problems. Like they came and found us basically as soon as we spawned into that final escort phase and killed our cube and started killing us, and it was bad. Like that team won the match before we even got our cube.
Oh boy,
anywhere near the final point.
So yeah, there's I think the other thing I didn't realize was just how kind of assault, defense, support class this game was, in terms of hey, pick your class types and play your role, and your team of 4.
It's five players per team. What is it? 4, 3, and 3. I think it's like 4 DPS characters and 3 tanks and 3 supports, I believe.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that. Also, each character has their own upgrade tree, and like everything else, I guess I should say, their own cosmetic loot boxes and the whole thing.
It's a full-on one of those.
Yeah.
It seems destined to become free to play. It kind of, sort of is on Game Pass.
Yeah,
already, not really, but kind of.
Class-based team shooter PvE.
It's not bad.
It's not bad. No,
it's profoundly stupid though.
Like tonally, it's kind of amazing. Like you get like a TV news report at the beginning where they straight up have a weather forecast looking graphic, except it's predicting how many dinosaurs are going to be raining on Tuesday. Like, it's fucking dumb in a very gleeful way that I enjoy. Like, the multiverse stuff is
like there's this you get some story beats and narratives between story quote unquote campaign missions, right? Like but which are essentially just matches, and then you play enough matches, you get a story beat.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like it's somewhat telling that even the story stuff, even the subsequent story stuff, is still delivered through the interface of like, here's your loot box tab, here's your hangar tab where you equip your suits.
Yeah.
Here's your story tab where you go view new cutscenes that are unlocked.
Yeah. Which at least there's some story in there.
They are cutscenes, I'll give them that.
Yeah.
It is an efficient way to put story into one of these games, because it is extremely one of these games.
You got a very light character creator because you are a human inside of a suit at some point. It's a pretty light character creator.
It's a bad character. I'm going to say it's bad.
We're
in a golden age of character creators, and this one is lackluster.
Yeah, Capcom themselves this year put out a great character creator in another game.
Yeah, it's not great, and granted, you really don't see much of your character in cutscenes. You do, but outside of that, But it's not bad. It's fun-ish. I can see I can see strategy and team synergy and stuff developing a little bit. I think there's some depth to it. Like, the biggest problem is, and apparently there are more modes that people saw in the open beta, and I assume people are leveling up now enough to see them in the final. But like I said, it's like multiple phases of PvE before you get to that last part where you're fighting the other team. And when you start the game, there's only one thing you do at each of those phases. Yeah. Every single one is just kill a bunch of dinosaurs. And apparently there are others, but you don't get any of them until you level up. And I don't know that I want to put in the time to level up enough to start getting more game types when there should have been like 1 or 2 more at the beginning for some more variety. Sometimes the dinosaurs are flying, sometimes they're on the ground.
Yeah, those are all dinosaur culls, though.
Yes, dinosaur cull.
The dinosaur cull is the only activity available at the beginning. You have to unlock more.
I'm with you. It felt, even by the third time we did it, I was like, okay, this feels... Also, the map looks exactly the same. I don't know if it is the same map. It feels the same.
There also is a limited number of... I've only seen 2 or 3 maps, I think.
Okay.
Same thing with the, like, each suit has slots. You can equip modules on it for, I think, mostly passives. They might all be passives. Some of them are suit specific, but then they all have also like a shoulder mount slot where everybody starts with the same cannon.
Yeah.
As another example. So you have no selectability there in a slot. I didn't even know that slot was like modular until somebody in chat was like, hey, you can eventually you'll unlock other things to put in that slot. Cause I was like, seems weird that all, 10 classes, 10 suits have the exact same ability
out of the gate.
Like, that's because you're going to equip other stuff in there, but you don't have any choices for any of that stuff. And then you just have to grind your way to more variety in the game, and they should have like sprinkled a little bit more of that in at the beginning. And you confirmed this on stream to some extent, but I did want to follow up. You earned enough points to unlock an item for one of those modular slots, which then looked like that item was unlocked for all the suits. But do you know if you equip it on a suit, can another suit use it? Or you can use it as much as you want. Okay, that's nice. Okay, they're not locking it. You don't have one of them. I'm on the Steam page, and come back. Subtitle. There's the auto trailer thing playing on Steam. Season 1, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, there you go. We'll be introducing the new Savage Gauntlet mode just 2 weeks after release on July 28th. Okay. They're basically holding stuff back for their first season, so I guess there will be more stuff to do in there soon, but That's 2 whole weeks for people to play this, especially if it's on Game Pass and they're not paying for it extra.
I assume
and
this is.
I don't know. Maybe I've played enough.
I assume this is cross-play, right? Like
yes.
cross. So I think that's Game Pass conversation aside. That's probably like a pretty smart idea if you have one of these to get Game Pass as something in the mix, so that you have
required.
You get that free user base matchmaking with PS5 and PC people,
especially because like we were on PS5. Because I didn't know until after we had started playing it that it was on Game Pass, and then I was like, oh boy, it's a good thing they have cross-platform matchmaking in this then, because fucking everybody is going to be playing this on Game Pass.
Yeah.
So PS5 is going to be like a wasteland without cross-platform.
Maybe, like you never know with the game, but maybe something like Exoprimal.
I feel like we have seen enough of these at this point that actually we can kind of tell when one is going to catch on without the aid of Game Pass or not. And I'm going to say right now, I don't know that I have the faith in this one of catching on.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't commenting on whether this is going to be popular or not. I just meant there are not going to be a lot of PS5 only players. Like, that's probably going to be the least populated platform for this, because so many people have Game Pass on PC or Xbox. And this, again, very much feels like a game that you should just play on Game Pass for now.
Exoprimal, it is $60, and like we said,
I forgot that Ryu stuff is coming.
Oh yeah, and your Exoprimal Cross Street Fighter whatever stuff is happening. That is on Game Pass as well, like we mentioned, out now on pretty much everything.
Last thing, why does the AI monologue at you for like the better part of a minute every time you start a match?
I don't load matchmaking behind the scenes.
Maybe,
I don't know.
Everybody's on a modern platform here. If that feels excessive,
I don't know. Let me go into my inventory at least, or something. Check my skills. Do something.
It seriously like feels like 30, 45 seconds of the AI just talking the same dialogue you've heard every match,
and then it boots you just into like a matchmaking lobby. Anyway,
yeah, that feels very well. It feels very Destiny to me, because that's where I've seen it. But I assume a lot of games do that thing where it's like both teams are on platforms facing each other.
Yeah, but like
so you can like strut and emote at each other for a few seconds before you start.
But like, leave me there instead of having the AI do your background loading there or whatever you're doing there.
Yes, put me in that thing immediately so I can go through all my emotes.
Yeah, yes, that's right. Show off these cosmetics that I paid so much money for. Alex Navarro, there's new Mario Kart DLC. Anything to talk about there?
I mean, I'll just say right now, the main draw here is they added more characters. They added Wiggler, they added Kamek, and they added Petey Piranha. There are new courses as well. It's the least good batch of courses they've put out so far.
Wait, did they say there were going to be new characters in these packs?
So when they got past the first 3, they said, also, we're going to start adding characters now.
Oh, wild.
So they did that last time and this time.
We had Birdo last time, right?
Yes, Birdo was added last time. So they're adding 6 total. They have added 4 so far. I don't know. They haven't said who the last 2 are yet.
What? Boy, this is revealing my ignorance of current modern Mario Kart, but like, what are the different differentiators besides looks on the characters, like speed, traction, just the basic stuff? Or is
like
else?
Weight and, like acceleration, speed, all that fun stuff.
There's no like character specific abilities or anything?
Not really. I mean, I will say I've moved over to Wiggler mostly because he makes the steaming mad Wiggler face whenever he gets hit with something, and I'm like, that's great. I'm just going to do that.
But Birdo can't shoot eggs or anything like that, right?
As far as I know, egg shooting is not allowed as of yet. Okay. But yeah, the new batch of courses, there's a couple of good ones in there. The one new one they put in there is pretty good, but otherwise it kind of feels like we're getting down to the bottom of the barrel here in terms of like what they can include. 48 courses is a lot.
Is this the final one?
There were going to be some bammer ones here and there.
Is this the last?
No, there's one more. There is one more coming.
Hey, you know what? If you had Mario Kart and you were still playing it, this seemed like it was a good value. Actually, This seems like
no. Don't get me wrong. This is a great thing they did.
Considering this is technically a Wii U game, the fact that they're still putting out content for it is completely bananas. But also, I think it's like the highest selling Switch game by a lot.
And I think it is still one of the most played. You can find people online playing that game anytime, ever.
Ever.
That game came out over 9 years ago.
Yeah. And here we are, still playing it.
Mario Kart, I'm playing it. Wiggler and I are playing.
It's kind of amazing they made it an entire generation without making a new Mario Kart because they were able to just ride this one for a second console.
You jam enough content into that thing, into a game people are already playing, it's like you just sold a new game.
It is sometimes feels like Nintendo is just wrapping it up, with some of what they're doing, like with Smash Brothers Ultimate and the Mario Kart stuff. Let's just put everything in it. We're never making another one of these because how do you do this again and start over without starting from scratch or something? And because they'll all just feel lesser, Smash Brothers and this Mario Kart feel like they have everything in it. So many characters, so many courses. We'll see. Nintendo
feels like we're getting close to hardware news.
Whatever Nintendo has to do.
I feel like they've been saying that since 1973.
Well, if you take what analysts had said previously at face value, like they had put end of next year as kind of like that's probably the latest it's going to come out. So
we'll see.
We might get a reveal before the end of this year.
I say no.
I'm making my Wiggler angry face.
Maybe. There was a laughably bad fake of a Switch 2 going around on Twitter yesterday, like full mock, not even mock-up, like it was purporting to be, this is a photo of the console and a photo of the box art. Again, it was like embarrassingly bad, but the fact that people are going to those links at this point, it's just like, man, people are hungry.
Yes.
For a new piece of Nintendo hardware.
Yeah, I was gonna I'll mention the segue here briefly. Been playing more Tears of the Kingdom, and I did hit places where I was like, oh, there it is. There's the frame drop, and like this is there's the performance stuff. Again, not huge in that game, but it happens, and you'd like to see.
I think I heard the water temple was one of the places where it gets pretty rough.
That's where I ran into it the most. That's where I ran into it the most. It was the water temple. A lot of particle effects happening.
Here's the unfortunate thing is that I've also heard this is probably the least bad, most enjoyable water temple they've ever made, apart from the frame rate issues.
Yeah. Still just chewing through that, getting my shrines on. Get my shrines. I think that's going to do it for games, unless you guys have anything else you want to touch on. I know that Diablo season is right around the corner. I might pop in once that drops to see what is going on there. A couple of other games are coming out pretty soon. We got Pikmin 4 on Friday. A couple of other things I want to touch, and we'll talk about those probably next week, though. I think I'm going to try and see what is going on. If you hear me talking about Oxenfree next week, it's because I want to go back and finish the first one. I might go try that out.
Yeah, give it a shot. You can beat that thing in a weekend.
Yeah. I might see if I can make it through it because enough Oxenfree 2 has gotten me where I think I just want the full thing. All right, we're gonna take a quick break here. There is some news going on here. The news will shock you. We'll come back and we'll talk about it in just a second. See ya. This week's show is brought to you by Bespoke Post. Brad Shoemaker.
Hi, hello.
You are aware of the Box of Awesome.
I get the Box of Awesome, and it's pretty awesome.
I also get the Box of Awesome. I have gotten a bunch of knives, all very cool looking knives. I got one that was like for digging recently in the outside. It came with a bird collar.
A digging knife?
A digging knife, like a trowel knife thing that was actually pretty neat. Like, so, it's one of those things where I'm like, I would never buy it. I would never know this even existed. And then like, this is pretty handy. This is going to go in my kit. You have told me, though, that you have gotten a bunch of
whiskey accessories?
Whiskey accessories? You've gotten a bunch of whiskey stuff in your Box of Awesome? That sounds kind of fun.
I got some old-fashioned mix. I got a handbook. I got a barrel.
Brad, no matter what you have going on this summer, Box of Awesome has you covered, from camping gear essentials, like a knife trowel thing, a cookout must-have, and drink game upgrades. Let's say like a barrel for your whiskey. Box of Awesome has collections for every part of your life. And to get started, you'll take a quiz at boxofawesome.com. Your answers will help them pick the right Box of Awesome for you. They release new boxes every month across a ton of different categories, and each box is valued at around $70, but you're only going to pay a fraction of that price. Plus, with each Box of Awesome, you're supporting small businesses. 90% of everything that comes in your Box of Awesome is from a small and up-and-coming brand. It's free to sign up, and you can skip a month or cancel at any time. Get 20% off your first monthly box when you sign up at boxofawesome.com and enter the code Nextlander at checkout. That's boxofawesome.com, code Nextlander, for 20% off your first box of awesome. Boxofawesome.com, code Nextlander. Thanks, Bespoke Post. All right, we are back, and the news is brewing. Now, Brad Shoemaker, you've pulled a bunch of news stories here. Microsoft and Xbox, big chunk of this news.
Yes, welcome to the Xbox News Hour. Our first story, pigs are flying.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Blizzard is putting a game on Steam.
Well, that's not quite Microsoft news yet, but maybe soon to be.
Jason.
Come on, let's be real.
Let's be real.
Let's be real.
Let's be real.
Let's be real. The UK doesn't have that much influence anymore.
I frankly wonder if the timing of this is not coincidental. If they are basically at the point where, like, yeah, we know this is happening. Nothing is stopping this at this point. Maybe you should just go ahead and start making the moves we would like you to make. Because this sure as hell didn't seem like it was ever going to happen under Bobby Kotick and the old regime.
Here we are, coming August 10th, I think it is. August 10th, yes, you will be able to get Overwatch 2.
Yeah, it's just Overwatch 2 to start. They are pretty coy about other games coming. What is it that they say? When the time is right, is what they say. As far as what's next for Blizzard on Steam, we'll be sharing more about potential other games coming to the platform when the time is right.
They'll be ready when they're ready.
So it's obviously Overwatch 2 is a game they would like to monetize on an ongoing basis, and Steam is a good place to do that. Diablo 4 seems like another one of those games, so who knows if that'll end up there. I don't know if I also wonder if there's going to be some kind of arbitrary exclusivity window of, like, hey, it's gonna be Battle.net exclusive for the first year, so we can get all of the money for selling it, and then after a year, you can have it on Steam, and we'll take the 30% cut, or whatever it is now.
They know. Look, both of these games, Overwatch 2. We should say you need a Battle.net account. Obviously, you launch the game, you will log in through Battle.net. Your stuff will be all there, and the whole back end is Battle.net. Though it did say Steam Friends would
cross-platform matchmaking. Yeah, they did say Steam Achievements, Steam Friends.
So I was surprised at that. I thought it would just be Battle.net Friends. Though, Battle.net mixes with, console-specific friends as well and stuff. So, it is in there in that ecosystem. But what I was going to say is, with the Battle.net account, all those purchases are going to be, I assume, through Battle.net and not through Steam. All of the cosmetics, all the money, buy your coins for Diablo are probably not going to show up, I would guess, on the Steam store page.
Probably not.
I would guess they're going to be in the Battle.net side of things in-game,
I don't think Valve has any regulations or restrictions around how that has to work. Like Apex Legends, I believe, stopped offering their seasonal content, new characters, stuff like that through Steam.
They did.
Like in the last year, maybe.
So they do it all through EA's.
Yeah, like they used to be. It used to be like every season you could just get the Steam DLC version of, like, here's the season 8 pack with the new character and all that stuff, and they no longer do that. So I guess that's some evidence that you can just do it all through your own store if you want.
So that's look, if that's what they're going with, from what I've seen of Diablo and what little I've seen of Overwatch 2, they're trying to get you for the long tail on these things, season passes, cosmetics, buy your Diablo coins and buy your horse armor and whatever else there is. So I'm surprised it took this long, though it does seem like with Diablo 4's very online community, this is where...
Oh, well, I mean, I would say without the Microsoft purchase, this was never going to happen.
Never? Just absolutely not. Just kind of...
Like, they are, like...
too entrenched in their ways?
Practically the one developer who could get away with it. Like, kind of... Well, I mean, people got mad about Call of Duty going to Battle.net, but that notwithstanding, it's like, look at like everybody else, like Ubisoft, EA, whoever, people like Bethesda... People are like, fuck you, I don't want to install your launcher, just sell on Steam. But, like, Battle.net, people are just like, okay, fine, yes, sure. you're Blizzard. Battle.net is older than Steam.
Right.
Sure, well, I'll just buy your game straight from you.
You have one game every 3 years.
But more to the point, they just, I mean, obviously Blizzard's fortunes have fallen in all kinds of ways in the last few years, but you know, for the longest time, they were like kind of the one developer that could get away with this and not have people get mad about it. But
yeah,
this serves the goals of Microsoft.
Hell yeah. To
be like, hey, look, we're bringing more games to more people. Look.
That's right.
Here's another example.
Here are more places you can give us money.
I have zero knowledge of any. I could be talking out of my ass here about like Microsoft's influence on this decision, but it sure seems coincidental.
Look, they say, we want to give everyone a chance to experience our universes with old friends while making new ones.
Like the language in there even reads like Phil Spencer trying to convince the FTC. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Overwatch 2 now. Probably, I'm gonna say Diablo in the future. That seems to make sense to me.
Probably, but again, that'll be a good test case if I wonder if it's going to be like, say, next June before Diablo comes to Steam or something.
Yeah.
For example, I just launched the Battle.net client to remind myself of what else could come over. Let's just see here.
What's their card
WoW
game?
is the big one. WoW is the big one to me. Like, WoW is that's the ultimate. Like, okay, they're all in on this if they start.
Is WoW free?
No.
I don't mean without subscription. But can you download it for free?
I think I haven't checked in a while. I think they used to do the like free up to level 20 stuff.
Okay.
I don't remember what the current state
but they don't charge you for the game and then charge you for a subscription, right? Like you could you just pay the subscription?
For the base, I mean, it's complicated because there's so many expansions.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Because they're selling a new expansion every like 2 years.
What about?
So I don't know what let's see.
What about Vanilla WoW?
It's man, I'm not going to try to figure out this matrix of subscriptions and purchase prices and almost 20 years worth of expansions.
Good. I just found my Burning Crusade disc the other day. All right.
$13 a month for 6 months of WoW, which gets you WoW, Wrath of the Lich King Classic, WoW Classic. I don't know, man. I don't know how many expansions you're getting there.
I'm going to say you probably won't see WoW on Steam for a while if they have to sell their subscriptions through there, or make, if they just get the download and propagate downloads there to get people hooked into Battle.net, sure. If there's any transactional stuff happening,
dude, putting WoW on Steam is not going to be the thing that gets someone who's held out from playing WoW this many years from finally taking the plunge. That's not what this is for.
WoW is not the juggernaut it used to be, but it is still the most like online of their games. Like you could throw the StarCraft 2 games on there just fine, or even Hearthstone or whatever. Like Overwatch is a good example, but
I understand why they're leading with Overwatch though, because Overwatch is the game they need to juice. Like they need something that will fucking get people. I mean, they still have a decent sized player base, but it has been, from my understanding, dropping off steadily over time.
Diablo 4 is pretty damn online. I tried to play that locally with my kids, and the hoops I had to go through, because everybody needs a Battle.net account, even if it's a local co-op session. What a pain in the neck. The age of third-party, always online logins and services on top of your console games, at least, and PC stuff. What a pain in the ass. I think Exoprimal also, you need that Capcom ID or you can't progress far enough. I think Street Fighter 6, I don't think you need it. I could be wrong there, but I think you could just do offline, but obviously something like Exoprimal, not too much offline there. So it puts my kids in a bind where it's like, I'm not making you guys whole accounts on Capcom's thing. I'm not making you a freaking Battle.net account right now just so you can play 20 minutes of Diablo co-op with me.
How old should your child be before they get their first Battle.net account?
I mean, it's not even the age thing. It's just like, how many accounts do you want to manage? like they don't really have their own. Sometimes I piggyback them on my email addresses. So that means a lot of times to make those accounts, you need an independent email address, or you try to do the thing where you do like a Gmail account plus, the extra characters to do it. It's just, I don't know, the whole thing's a kind of a mess. And Blizzard didn't seem to have a pretty good parental account thing where you could do a sub account for a child. Anyway,
is that the official word?
That's Vinny's official word.
All right. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
This news is nuts, though. This is definitely not something that I expected ever.
Welcome to Steam, Tracer. Well, let's go into more Xbox news here. Proper Xbox news. Hey, Brad, we just kind of mentioned the Activision Blizzard merger stuff. What's going on with them?
That's a very quick update. They and the UK have negotiated a new deadline of October 18th.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I take that back. I've got that out of order. It's Microsoft and Activision that have negotiated this new deadline in light of the UK not having approved the deal. Any regulatory action in the US is dead at this point. That's fully done.
Mm-hmm.
But they have not quite figured things out with the UK yet, so they are giving themselves a few more months.
Very quick, and the upshot being they might owe more money if things fall through. I think we generally all believe this is not going to fall through at this point.
There is no way this is not happening in some form, and mostly in the form it was intended at this point. But it's mostly worth noting because, like, after the FTC's case failed, a lot of people were like, "Hey, they might actually make it by the 18th of July," which is yesterday at the time of this recording.
The answer is no, they did not.
Like if the UK had buckled, they actually might have just like gotten it done and said, "Hey, it's happening. We're done. It's sealed."
Yes,
but that didn't happen yet. But it
doesn't mean it fell through. They just negotiated more time.
They're going to get there.
Brad, there are changes to Xbox Live. Or what is Xbox Live?
I don't know.
What is it?
Does it still exist?
I don't know. You tell me.
I don't know.
In the minds of 30-somethings everywhere, it still does.
Is there an Xbox Live Arcade, or is there only a Game Pass Core Arcade?
Definitely not an Xbox Live Arcade anymore, unfortunately, but there fucking should be.
Welcome to Game Pass Core?
Yeah, they are... I want to just come in here and say, hey, they're retiring the Xbox Live name, but I'm not sure if that's actually true or not. They are no longer going to sell an Xbox Live subscription.
Okay.
They're changing the final remaining Xbox Live Gold to Xbox Game Pass Core.
Same price. So if you're on Xbox, as far as I can understand from going over this, and I tried to pour over a little bit of it to see if it was confusing or not confusing. It seems like if you're Xbox Live Gold, you go into Core, you pay the same amount. Instead of getting your 2 games a month, you will get now a library of 25 games that will be updated semi-regularly.
That is the big difference, is they're retiring games with gold, which I don't know how many people were using that anyway, because the quality of the offerings was variable.
Hmm.
Yeah, they're basically getting rid of games with gold and replacing it with a much reduced Game Pass library. Over 25 is a weird way to put it.
Yeah.
Instead of your games with gold, your 2 free games a month, you get, quote, catalog of over 25 high-quality games on console.
Over 25.
Over 25.
To be fair, it's a pretty good list.
It's not bad.
Dishonored 2, Doom Eternal, Fable Anniversary, Fallout 4, Forza Horizon 4, Gears 5, Grounded, Halo 5, Halo Wars 2, Hellblade, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Psychonauts 2, State of Decay 2 is a lot of first-party stuff.
Yeah.
Elder Scrolls Online, Tamriel Unlimited.
So
I think it's a decent library. I wonder how often they'll rotate games in and out of that.
They said 2 to 3 times a year. They'll refresh some of that. We'll see what happens there. Other thing to note is if you're currently Xbox Live Gold, you apparently will keep the stuff you have already.
Yeah. Anything you claimed as part of Games with Gold, you will keep access to as long as you keep your subscription.
So claim all that shit.
Regardless of subscription status, any Xbox 360 titles redeemed via Games with Gold in the past will be kept in a player's library. So I guess I guess 360 games they just don't care about enough at this point to take them away from you. They're just like, hey, if you got them, then good on you. Enjoy your free 360 games, even if you cancel.
So, for folks that don't know, we talk about Game Pass a lot here. Hey, this is coming to Game Pass, this is coming to Game Pass, or this is not coming to Game Pass. So there should be a distinction made because I've been Ultimate for a while, so I didn't realize that some of this was teased out in other tiers. But there's a console tier, and there was previously Xbox Live Gold, but now it's the core tier. Those are two different things. If you are on the core tier, that is not you get everything on Game Pass. Like we just said, that's the kind of bulk games, the library of 25, and the online multiplayer access on the console.
I mean, they already had a little bit of a branding problem, or at least a consumer confusion issue around you can pay $11 a month for Game Pass on console, but that doesn't get you multiplayer. You still have to get Xbox Live Gold to get multiplayer. That was confusing. They have at least now unified the entire subscription under the Game Pass umbrella. But I think that just makes it even more confusing.
It did for me for a second.
The $10 a month Game Pass gets you multiplayer. The $11 a month one does not.
Right.
But I mean, obviously they're trying to push you to Ultimate.
Yes.
Because it's $21 a month to get all of that, unless you get Ultimate for $17 instead.
Right.
Ultimate,
including the PC stuff too.
Yeah, it's still a kind of messy solution to a problem they haven't solved yet. The real thing to me here is this just really illustrates the primacy of Game Pass as the thing going forward. That they are literally pulling the Xbox Live name out of the subscription offerings, and I wonder, are they just going to stop saying Xbox Live at all?
They might. I don't think they're going to get that out of the public lexicon anytime soon.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. I need to find it in here. It's yes, here it is, second paragraph on Xbox Wire. For over 20 years, Xbox players have been connecting via Xbox Live to compete, cooperate, and experience the biggest blah, 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 blah. Dude, don't come at me. Don't just nonchalantly drop hey, Xbox Live is over 20 years old. What?
My heart can't take it.
Yeah, it was just weird. Xbox Live is kind of an institution, so it's just a weird passing of the torch thing here. Are they retiring that branding? I need to know.
If they do retire that branding, I hope that in the future, when they do showcases, they rebrand those as Xbox Live showcases.
Sure.
Bring it back for the fans.
Fuck, much like EA once turned the Origin name from a beloved developer into the name of a shitty PC launcher.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft can take the name of their multiplayer service and turn it into the name of their press conference.
Exactly. And we have another Xbox Live coming up. Phil Spencer's going to show you what's coming up next in the next couple of months here for Xbox. Like a Nintendo Direct, an Xbox Live.
Yeah.
All right. Again, kind of key takeaway there. Heads up, if you are an Xbox Live member, you will be pushed into a core membership that has a couple of changes, especially around your game library. So heads up for that. I think that's September 1st is when Games with Gold comes to an end and some of that shift happens. And I think September 14th is the core stuff. So look out for that. Finally, just very quickly here, PlayStation did it first, but it seems like Xbox is bringing voice chat moderation to its platforms. Report your friends. No.
Yes.
report toxic behavior by sending clips to Microsoft for review.
Yeah, I had somehow missed that PS5 had this already. PS4 does not, but PS5 does have voice clip reporting for bad behavior on voice chat, which is rampant, as everybody knows. Now Xbox is rolling it out as well. Sounds like what you would want.
Yeah.
Easily take a 60-second clip of the voice chat that just happened, fill out a report, submit it, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep. Keep your privacy, and security tight on that stuff. Don't fuck it up, Microsoft, and make sure, you're using it for the right purposes. And
also, interestingly, I don't know how Sony handles it, but they delete it off your console after 24 hours, whether you have reported it or not.
I saw that as a bullet point. I don't remember Sony saying that. So I don't know if they do that it seemed like Microsoft was aware that there are privacy issues with this, and
yeah, and not just privacy, but also if it's like particularly egregious, you probably don't want to like stumble into a clip of somebody saying something hurtful to you a year later that you forgot was on there.
There is that, but I think there are yes, you're absolutely right. For its intended purpose, I think there are also probably concerns about people recording private conversations and through an official mechanism. Obviously, anybody can record whatever you want.
Probably the main reason. They basically say, like, hey, if you haven't submitted it in 24 hours, we'll give you a notification saying, like, hey, do you still want to submit this? But then it will get deleted.
Right.
Anyway, it's good that they have this.
The next piece of news here, I was very excited about to see, as someone who has long been not a champion, but in favor of rechargeable batteries versus built-in battery packs in things like handhelds and controllers. Brad Shoemaker, what is this piece of legislation or news coming out of, where is it, the UK, yeah?
It's an EU regulation.
Okay.
EU regulation is that all handheld products by 2027, or as of 2027, have to have user replaceable batteries.
I like it.
Yeah.
Or at least serviceable, right? Like this is an environmental move in the end, hopefully. I think, or it's underneath. I read the broad legislation. It was pretty thick. It seems like they are trying to get from basically start to finish a process on batteries to kind of get this under control.
I think the EU is pretty consumer rights oriented from my very limited experience. I'm mostly basing that on this USB-C regulation that is looming for phones. Basically, all phones in the EU have to use USB-C by the end of next year.
Okay.
So they are fairly aggressive and good on them for pushing stuff like this. That, of course, get into a whole can of worms about if USB-C is sufficient.
Is that the one?
If that is a side grade from Lightning for some reasons, but anyway, like their hearts are in the right place though on stuff like this.
Yeah, sure. Like look, I am someone who who will go in and crack open a thing that's not supposed to be cracked open to change a dead battery, right? These things last. Old consoles, old things that have built-in batteries, you can have problems that are legitimate problems with swelling or battery issues.
That's the big one. I mean, just being able to replace the battery so the device remains useful is important, but the bigger one to me is like, hey, these types of batteries are a safety hazard.
They are.
If not disposed of. And making it that hard to get them out in that sense really sucks.
Yeah, getting them out, versus people basically chucking the entire device just in the trash or separating the battery from the electronics where you could put them in one in a hazardous waste and one in electronics recycling. Like that stuff is hard and kind of complicated. It's much easier just to throw a thing in the trash. So make it as easy as possible for people to get the batteries out, A, and B, make it easy as possible for people to get third-party or aftermarket batteries to replace them there, if not just off-the-shelf stuff, that you can put in there. I'm a big fan of that. I do wonder. I'd have to check the legislation or talk to somebody smarter or more aware than myself. Would this apply to phones?
I do not know, and it seems like most people don't know because this document is open to interpretation.
Okay,
like it flat out says in here that the scope of the devices included in this has not been like fully. I mean, it's described in the regulation, but that, different people might have different arguments for why a certain device does or does not qualify. So,
like, this is a communication device. This isn't
that's probably yet to be tested, but
controller. Like, I used to talk about this with Abby. Kind of, she was I like my rechargeable batteries in my controller. I'm a big PlayStation built-in rechargeable battery fan, and I was always a big Xbox controller. Put your own rechargeable batteries in there. That way, if your batteries run out, you just swap them out, and you don't have to plug the controller in.
Yeah.
But there's a convenience factor for just having rechargeables built in, and just make sure your battery's charged. So,
yeah. I just replaced the sticks in a DualShock 4 a couple weeks ago, and it's like not the hardest thing to take apart and deal with, but it's still a pain in the ass.
Those DualShock 4s are not for novices. There's a lot of real thin component, like that weird thin films circuit board.
3 small ribbon cables that you have to deal with and stuff.
Yeah.
But honestly, my biggest thing, the thing I hate the most about taking stuff like that apart is just getting the housing open.
Oh, like you feel like you're going to crack a tab? Yeah.
Everything is like sealed together so tightly these days that you got to work a pry tool in there, and 50-50, you're going to break a tab or two off in the process of getting it open.
You're at least going to chew up some of the plastic if you're not careful. Because I always find those plastic spudgers just aren't enough to do the job all the time. And then you want something a little more aggressive. But yes.
So it's making the battery easily replaceable, if nothing else, is huge, because that is the most consumable thing in something like that.
Totally. And like, look, we've all been around this long enough to know that battery degradation over time sucks. Like, you know, when you start getting to the point where your device lasts about 20 seconds off of the battery, it's kind of useless, especially in controllers, and it makes them useless. And again, I'll mention, because it's real, old batteries can be dangerous inside of a device. You know, if anybody's seen an iPhone or an old iPod that's starting to bulge, heads up.
Mm-hmm. That's no good.
That ain't great. All right.
I've got like 3 bulging batteries that really need to go to e-waste.
Oh, tell me about
really should get that done.
Tell me about your bulging batteries.
Please, I would like to not, in fact, hear about your bulging batteries, if at all possible.
One of them says Dying Light 2 on it.
Oh, on your bulging battery?
So do my balls.
Okay.
Here's another public service announcement, since we're talking about things going bad in controllers. Don't leave your controllers near a windowsill.
Ooh, what'd you get?
Because I don't know whatever that reaction is that causes certain types of rubber to get really sticky and disgusting over time.
Oh yeah.
Apparently is massively accelerated by ultraviolet light.
Was it the thumbsticks?
Yes, the sticks on it's the last DualShock 4 I bought, so it's actually probably only 4 years old or something.
Man,
I left it out on a table near a windowsill for like 3 months without touching it.
And it got that sticky,
I went
gross.
and touched it, like they were like unusably disgusting. Like
I hate that.
The sticks were so sticky.
It's not a cheap controller.
That's why I had to replace the sticks, because they were absolutely disgusting.
Hey, did you find not to turn this into a personal conversation that I could just have with you offline, but did you find a reliable source for your analog replacement sticks? I have to do it on a Nintendo Pro controller, and I feel like I've had 50-50 luck with my sources.
I bought a pair of aluminum sticks.
Okay.
From good old Extreme Rate.
Extreme Rate?
Yes, purveyors of fine Switch replacement shells and a bunch of other nonsense for consoles. You can Google them if you want. I'm a little torn now, having done it on the metal sticks.
Okay.
Like, they're definitely, you don't get the grip, obviously. Like, your thumbs kind of slip on them a little bit because they're slick.
Put thumb socks on them.
And especially if your thumbs are like kind of dry, like it doesn't feel like you've got the greatest grip on there.
Okay.
They feel nice, though. They're quite cold.
Did you use your Pine-Sol?
No, there's no soldering.
What?
This is just you're not replacing the entire like stick apparatus. It's just the actual stick.
Okay.
Is just an insert on top of the mechanical part.
Oh, so it's not the electronics part.
No, the DualShock stick is basically irreplaceable. The actual stick. It's like 14 solder points.
Great. Awesome.
You have to do the whole like dip it in a solder bath kind of thing to get it. iFixit themselves basically say like, hey, don't try this. This is not worth it.
I haven't had to do it for a DualShock 4 yet. I did have to take a DualShock 4 apart after my dog chewed it, but I didn't have to replace the stick. Inside the innards of that thing are, like I said, they are complicated at this point.
Yeah. I kind of chewed up the edges of the enclosure a little bit, getting it open, unfortunately. But
it's wacky. All right, next story here. Tell me if you've heard this before. Ratatan.
Yeah, the developers of Patapon are now making Ratatan. They're kickstarting it.
Mm-hmm.
It is the creator and the original composer have come together to launch a Kickstarter campaign. I think they announced this at Bit Summit in Japan this past week. To me, I mean, it's cool that they're doing this. Okay, fine. I'll talk about the game first.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
In fact, I'm just quoting from an interview that the producer did with Video Games Chronicle. The 3 main game concepts are over 100 cute characters fighting out on screen, 4-player simultaneous battles, and more adventure and roguelike elements than Patapon had. Like, that all sounds cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
That all sounds like a nice evolution of that concept. Also, they put out some art that looks really nice, I think.
It's a little teaser trailer that is
Like-
very Patapon.
Like, those games being on PSP reminds you how limited they were by being on the PSP. When you see this nice high-res art and then you see that they're saying 100 characters at a time and stuff, that's like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
They're taking this concept and expanding it on better hardware. The fact that they have to kickstart this, though,
Not a great
feels
sign.
telling. Feels telling. Well, you know, Sony shut down Japan studio.
Yep.
Like, I know that, what is it, Team Asobi is the Astrobot developer, right?
Mm.
I think, like, whatever was left of Japan studio got folded into that group, so it's not like they're not making any games there.
But it's very different.
Man, it used to feel like a fire hose of weird little lower-priced games coming out of Sony's Japanese development efforts. And that stuff is just about gone these days.
Just
and that's
about.
kind of sad.
Yeah, definitely feels much more when I think of Sony. What comes out of Sony, it's like God of War, Spider-Man, those big Last of Us, the big giant AAA stuff, and not the cool kind of genre inventing games that used to come out of there.
Yeah. Like, they're so entrenched as the dominant console, at least between them and Microsoft, that I'm sure in their minds it's like, we don't need to put out these weird little things that don't sell that well anymore because people are already here. But I feel like there's still an argument for making your platform seem cooler with stuff that might not be turning massive amounts of ROI.
Yeah, I feel like at this point trying to get one of those, like, kind of, beloved niche Japanese games like that, onto a platform like this will require something like a Kickstarted campaign, and even that is not always a guarantee. You remember what happened when the Parappa guy tried to make a new one of those, and that one did not get funded.
God, I forgot about that.
Yeah, there have been a few of those. Some of them got funded. Some of Swery's stuff, I think, got funded when he was doing his stuff. But, like,
how did I forget about this? Project Rap Rabbit?
Yes. It sounded neat, but it also sounded like we literally are just making a new version of that game. And I think there just wasn't enough of a groundswell of support for that. And I really hope that's different this time around.
Yeah, I guess like some of Swery's efforts on Kickstarter also have been a little iffy, right?
Yeah, some have worked, some not so much.
Yeah, fine. I mean, I get it. Maybe there just isn't that much demand for new Patapon, but it just reminds me of the time when, like, XBLA might have had a lot of big, great games, but PSN felt like the place for just a lot of weird stuff.
Yes, for sure.
A lot of more experimental or, like, unexpected, unusual stuff.
Brad and Alex, before I move on to our next and final story, as I was scrolling to the end of that Ratatan story, a little thumbnail caught my eye, and I forgot we didn't mention this during the Xbox part. But farewell, Major Nelson.
Oh yeah. Yes, I saw that. I thought about putting it in here. I don't know.
Just a quick.
What has he been doing the last several years? Is the question I have. But
speaking of things at Xbox that have been going for over 20 years.
yeah. Is he getting rebranded? Yeah, I don't know. He was like, he was like, I don't know, I'm going to call him an Xbox brand, the major Xbox brand ambassador. I'm
going to say he's one of the first brand ambassadors that I can think of.
Yes. Director of Programming, it sounds like, was his final title there. Is that right?
Sure.
I think that's what I'm seeing. So maybe he was in a somewhat less front-facing role by the end. I don't know.
From a different time.
Yeah.
Major Nelson, but yeah, 20 years. Does anybody out there know if you only got into, let's say, the Xbox ecosystem? This is a general question out there to the audience. In the last 10 years or so, do you even know who we're talking about? Well, Larry, Major Nelson. Like, I feel like
do the kids know about Major Nelson? We need to know.
we need to know. Just kind of been in the background, I feel like, for a while, but wasn't at first.
I remember. I feel like was it like directly post 360 release that he really started becoming more prominent? I don't remember.
Yeah, he would have he was definitely like on camera and talking, getting out there and pumping the hype machine. So
I can't remember actually, because like social media was not big enough for him to be big on there in 2005. But I don't know.
I feel like he would handle like their E3 stuff and like be out there pre-show and post-show.
Yeah, he became like a presenter for a lot of their stuff, I guess. But he also, I just felt like, was communicating a lot of information to people about Xbox stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, he had a blog, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
I think that's what it was. I think, remember, because 2005 was still the era of the blog. I think that's where he actually started becoming prominent, was blogging about Xbox stuff.
Yeah. Herb. Director of Promotions, I'm looking at his final title here. I didn't know he had a podcast.
Everyone does.
Yeah, I guess. Right, that's the new thing, that you go from blog to podcast. Yeah. Right, that makes sense. Picture him on Wikipedia holding a Lancer with a chainsaw. That's it. That's all I needed to see. All right, Brad, take it to our final story here. You know, speaking of things from a time gone.
I don't even know what to say about this. Somebody help me out here. They're putting Gex on modern consoles.
I got nothing. I'm not a Gex fan. It's like not my bag.
Gex Trilogy. I don't know that I've ever played a Gex game.
I feel like Gex feels like maybe like a Dan Reichert thing. I don't know.
Kind of.
I don't know if Dan Reichert. Dan, did you like Gex? I don't know. I've got nothing on Gex. Like
Gex to me was just like always kind of second to Bubsy in the late 90s in terms of like, maybe there are too many mascot platformers now.
Does Gex have attitude, or is Gex just goofy?
Probably. I mean, okay, so Gex Trilogy is a collection that Limited Run Games is putting out.
Mm-hmm.
Gex is a gecko, you might have guessed, who is kind of like a secret agent, tuxedo-wearing guy, or at least he was in some of his games. Yeah. He's voiced by Dana Gould. I think that's the actual thing, and even in the time, I remember like, oh man, they got Dana Gould to voice this guy. That's like actually, Dana Gould is very funny. I've seen his stand-up live. He is quite good.
Is Dana Gould doing anything recently?
I don't know, but that's really all I had to say about this. Okay. Was if this is a way for Dana Gould to get paid some more, then good for them. I don't know if anybody's actually clamoring for Gex. Gex started on the 3DO, if that tells you anything.
Okay, maybe that's why I have zero love or familiarity with Gex.
If anybody ever gets around to a 3DO core for the Mister, which I'm not expecting, maybe we'll play some Gex, original Gex.
I'm just trying to see, are there details for this in terms of dates?
I don't know if we don't need to buy.
Are you saying nobody cares? Nobody cares.
Somebody will care.
Look for it. Limited Run Games. I didn't see anything here that had a date in this thing. All right.
They're porting it. It's some kind of remaster there. It's being ported to a new engine and stuff.
Yes. I don't know what the Carbon engine is, but yes, look for Gex on the Carbon engine. That's going to do it for the news. Big news there, I guess. I'll say again, to reiterate, look for Overwatch coming to Steam in the near future, and a bunch of Xbox stuff. Your subscriptions might be changing. Hopefully, in the future, we can have replaceable batteries in our electronics, or serviceable batteries in our electronics. Brett Shoemaker, we've got an email address here. It is podcast@nextlander.com. That is podcast@nextlander.com. What is floating around there in the old email pool? I don't know if we have time for a bunch of them. You got one or two there. You want to pluck a luck out?
Yes, I have selected Ein email.
Okay.
Un email.
All right, I'm not down with your leet speak, but I'm going to suspect that means we have an email.
It's from Zach, and it's about David Lynch.
Okay.
About meeting David Lynch, kind of.
Okay.
I have a family member who has been bouncing around startups in Silicon Valley for 30 years or so. As a result, they get to go to some swankier places and parties. And in this case, it was the 2018 David Lynch Festival of Disruption.
What is that?
Great name.
I have no idea.
I'll look it up for you.
I flew out to join him after he said it would be okay. Now he's outgoing and social, whereas I am an IT person from Minnesota, so standing in a room where the RZA is live scoring 36th Chamber of the Shaolin while Grace Jones and Jeff Goldblum share a drink is not a normal day for me.
Okay. Fair enough.
In a night of odd moments and people, the one that stood out most was Lynch himself, who sat in a booth wearing sunglasses with a bodyguard army around him and not talking to anyone. I pretty much just stood in the back with the kind of body language that let anyone famous know they didn't want to talk to me. But when it was time to leave, I decided I would at least acknowledge the situation. And as I walked by Lynch's booth, I waved and shouted, "I saw Eraserhead when I was 12. He smiled, waved back, and said, "Good."
That sounds about right.
And that was my single brush with greatness.
Alex, can I get a David Lynch good? I feel like you do the David Lynch.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
It's like I'm there.
Right.
Really.
I wouldn't have taken him for a bodyguard guy. I guess that's the only thing from this story. I would have.
That was, I mean, he's the guy running the event, whatever the Festival of Disruption is. Do we know?
So the Festival of Disruption is some sort of festival they were running where it's a charity thing that benefits the David Lynch Foundation, which is the foundation that mostly evangelizes transcendental meditation, which is kind of his whole big thing.
Okay. Good.
I guess as the impresario, you probably maybe want some protection or something. I don't know. But he did not seem like a hide behind a bunch of ruffians sort of guy.
Maybe he was, hey, look, maybe he was sitting at I could believe this more. Maybe he was sitting at the table with like staff and crew, like bouncers and crew, just kind of hanging out, wanted to be with the people, you know? Maybe that's what I want to believe that.
He does seem to me like the kind of person to just sit there and not talk to people, though.
Oh, yeah. Or, I mean, I don't know anything about David Lynch, really, except
he talks to his friends. I think that's all he really wants to do.
I don't know. Knowing him as I do.
Yeah, that's right.
As an expert.
I could see him just like sitting there taking it in.
That's what I would do.
Being a bit above it all.
Good. That's going to do it for our emails. He said, questioning. That's going to do it for our emails, and that's going to do it for our show this week. Speaking of David Lynch, we've got the Watchcast ongoing. You should go check it out because we are barreling through Twin Peaks, and boy, I'm having a fun ride watching all these twists and turns and who's now dating whom. It's everybody's dating everybody else. It's
dating.
How cute. Seeing, plotting. I watched the last 2 episodes with my wife, and I found myself a fairly light lift for me to explain everybody. I think as dense as all of that weaving of relationships seem, I think I got it. I think I'm on top of it. It's hey, this person's married to this person, but they're secretly seeing this person who is also secretly seeing this person. So if you want to join us, you can do that over on the Patreon, where we have the latest and greatest episodes of the Watchcast. You can also catch the Watchcast wherever only the best podcasts are found. We also have Never Been a Better podcast currently up with Austin Walker and Abby Russell, where you can find out about Abby's obsession with 7-Eleven clothing, the Kool-Aid Man, all sorts of fun stuff over there. Alex's secret childhood friends' food choices, dinner food choices. Soda milk, I believe it was. You can find out all about that stuff over at patreon.com/Nextlander, where there are a bunch of different tiers, and you can find one that fits your lifestyle, including one called the Mysterious Benefactor tier, where you get your name read on this here show. And I am going to read those names for you today. I have the honor of reading those names for you today, starting with RRE, John Richardson, Vornak, Kelly F., Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, Sean Miller, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, Jerry Lee. Deirdre has now killed more dinosaurs than meteors or whatever. Gary Pejke, Robert Fisher, John McInnes, Bunny Fiend, Peter Reardon, Thomas Lynn, Jad Rita, Statics, Andrew Jackson, Mega Crane, Razgriz 2, Brian Murphy, Randy Duax, Andrew Tiebkin, Alex Wu, It's Me JP, Matt Clements Jr., Edward Chick, Andrew Slosky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Treese. Those are the mysterious benefactors for this week. Thanks again to them and to everyone who has gone over to patreon.com/Nextlander to support us, everyone who's checked us out across the multiverse of the internet, the YouTubes, the Twitches, the podcast platforms, wherever you consume only the fine internet products. We're not where you consume the bad internet product. We won't be found there.
No, I have the bad internet product, apparently.
Yeah, it's exclusive to Alex's internet connection. Just piped in directly into his house.
It's always something.
Welcome to owning a house. It's always something. Bless this mess. Thanks everybody for joining us. I just want to recap quickly here in case you missed it. We are going to be setting sail on the Sea of Thieves on Thursday with Abby Russell. Alex and I will be checking out.
Well, we hope I will.
We hope, given the sea of internet fun, we will be checking that out on Thursday. On Friday, we're going to be doing a grab bag. Probably going to show off some of that Viewfinder. If I had to guess, we will show off some of that Pikmin 4 as well. And on Monday, we played Karateka. Brad and I got into some Apple II nonsense.
Some bad birds.
That bird, and listen, the bird wasn't. Brad got past the bird.
Oh yeah,
Brad learned the bird.
Oh, the bird was the word.
Yeah,
I had that bird dealt with.
That bird's number was known. You'll have to tune in to find out what closed on Brad. What ended the Brad run? What closed the door on Brad's run? You'll have to check it out. The answer probably won't shock you if you played Karateka. But a lot of fun there. We also checked out some other stuff on Apple IIe. Brad makes a valiant effort to make it across the United States in an Oregon Trail run.
Defeated by the escape key.
It's a fun stream. You can check it out from this past Monday. Of course, we've got the Ramblecast up, and like I said, the Watchcast. Never been a better podcast. Check them all out. Thank you very much, Brad Shoemaker. Thank you, Alex Navarro. I hope your internet trials and tribulations clear themselves up.
Hey, me too.
Yeah.
Everything else is going great. It's just this one thing.
You gonna call someone?
Oh, I'm calling someone. I've literally got my phone up right here, man. I'm ready.
You were frustrated. I could tell. It sucks. I'm sorry. If you didn't know, I'll just say it here. Alex has been kind of dropping in and out throughout the podcast. I actually think he is dropped out currently as I say this. It is...
I would say whatever we want about him.
It seems so frustrating. So thank you for your patience, Alex. Hopefully things get resolved. And we'll be back. We'll tell you all about it next week on this here podcast. Thanks, everyone. See ya.